Welcome back to the Paranormal State, Washington, and UFO UAP. With Makāula Nakae, a lifelong experiencer and ET contactee since 1990. Today's episode, Russia in UFOs and the Paranormal. The Soviet military-industrial complex and state research. If Western ufology is defined by open civilian investigation and Latin America's Z by mass public celebrations, Russia's relationship with UFOs and the paranormal is defined by military secrecy, state-managed science, and a dark, sprawling history of classified encounters. From the secretive research programs of the former Soviet Union to massive Siberian anomalies and high-altitude military intercepts, Russia has a profound, highly complex history with high strangeness. While Western nations largely viewed UFOs through a pop culture or media lens during the post-war decades, the Soviet Union treated the phenomenon as a serious matter of national security, airspace intelligence, and potential foreign technological espionage. Beginning as early as the late 1940s and 1950s, accelerated by mysterious aerial objects observed near high-security rocket testing grounds like Kapustin Yar in Astrakhan Oblast. The Soviet Ministry of Defense and the KGB established secret committees to investigate UAPs. Special underground bunkers and restricted military facilities, such as specialized zones in the Saratov region, were designated to stop recovered physical debris, radar logs, and classified witness statements from military personnel. As anomalous reports mounted through the Cold War, the Soviet government realized the phenomenon required structured scientific oversight. In the late 1970s and 1980s, following massive regional waves like the Petrozavodsk phenomenon, the Soviet government launched a massive, coordinated state study on anomalous aerial phenomena known colloquially as the network Setka. Managed jointly by the Ministry of Defense and the prestigious Soviet Academy of Sciences, the project united roughly 20 scientific institutions, staffed by physicists, chemists, opticians, and aerospace engineers. Thousands of military pilots, radar operators, and officers were legally required to report encounters. While much of this apparatus was initially aimed at identifying covert Western surveillance technology, it accumulated a vast, rigorous trove of internal military documentation regarding genuinely unexplained aerial events. Moving beyond classified state research laboratories and military steering committees, the vast geography of Russia and the former Soviet Union has served as the stage for some of the most dramatic, heavily publicized, and terrifying close encounter cases in modern history. As political restrictions shifted over the decades, these events broke through the Iron Curtain, revealing a history of anomalous encounters that routinely alarmed both Soviet citizens and high-ranking military commanders. The Petrozavodsk phenomenon, September 20, 1977. One of the most heavily documented and politically impactful mass sighting events in Soviet history, occurred on a late September evening in northwestern Russia. Across Petrozavodsk and surrounding regions, thousands of citizens looked up to witness an enormous, glowing, red and white luminous object resembling a giant jellyfish or starburst. The object hovered silently over the city, showering brilliant beams of light down onto the streets and water before shrinking into a dense red star. The anomaly was not merely visual. Local power fluctuations, telephone network disruptions, and radar anomalies were logged during the event. The scale of the public panic was so massive that it forced an unprecedented concession from the state. The Soviet Academy of Sciences, led by prominent academics, was compelled to publicly acknowledge the event and launch a formal, nationwide study into anomalous aerial phenomena, forever altering how Soviet science interacted with ufology. The Voronezh Incident, September 1989. By the late 1980s, Soviet Premier Mikhail Gorbachev's policy of glasnost openness dismantled decades of rigid media censorship, allowing previously forbidden stories of high strangeness to explode into mainstream state newspapers. In September 1989, state-run news agencies, including TASS, shocked the world by reporting that children and adult witnesses in a public park in the city of Voronezh had witnessed a landed, egg-shaped or disc-like spacecraft. According to the widely reported accounts, a hatch opened and towering, three-eyed humanoid entities emerged, accompanied by a small robotic companion. The entities allegedly carried weapon-like tube devices, causing a local boy to temporarily vanish before reappearing. Though Western media treated the state-run reports with a mix of amusement and skepticism during the dying days of the USSR, the Voronezh incident became a legendary touchstone of late Soviet pop culture, symbolizing a brief era where the state media openly entertained the bizarre. Perhaps the most alarming chapter in Soviet ufology involves the intersection of unidentified aerial phenomena and the Soviet Union's strategic nuclear arsenal. Declassified Soviet military archives and translated intelligence disclosures indicate that nuclear missile installations, strategic bomber bases, and submarine fleets were occasionally subjected to intense UAP surveillance. Similar to parallel declassified events in the United States, such as Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana, veteran Soviet military officers later came forward with astonishing claims that UFOs had hovered directly over restricted nuclear missile silos during high-tension Cold War standoffs, in some instances temporarily interfering with communication links or activating automated diagnostic sequences before departing at impossible speeds. To truly understand Russia's relationship with the unknown, one must look beyond classified military dossiers and radar tracking logs. Russia possesses a rich, profound intellectual lineage that merges rigorous science with deep esotericism, creating a national consciousness uniquely receptive to cosmic anomalies, unseen dimensions, and the expansion of human limits. At the turn of the 20th century, long before the first Sputnik satellite broke orbit, Russia birthed a unique philosophical and scientific movement known as Russian Cosmism. Pioneered by thinkers like Nikolai Fedorov and later expanded by rocket science pioneer Konstantin Tsiolkovsky, Cosmism argued that humanity was not meant to remain bound to Earth. This philosophy boldly fused evolutionary science, Orthodox Christianity, and cosmic philosophy. Cosmists believed that humanity's ultimate moral and evolutionary destiny was to actively master the universe, conquer space, resurrect past generations through scientific means, and merge human consciousness with the cosmos itself. This deep-seated cultural romanticism made the concept of space exploration and non-human intelligence feel less like science fiction and more like an inevitable cosmic destiny. Beneath the surface of Russia's official state-managed rationalism and militant atheism during the Soviet era lies a long-hidden history of intense fascination with the occult, parapsychology, and human consciousness. Even before the 1917 revolution, the imperial court in St. Petersburg was deeply captivated by mysticism, spiritualism, and enigmatic figures like Grigory Rasputin, whose influence stemmed largely from a society obsessed with the invisible spiritual forces governing politics and health. During the height of the Cold War, while the KGB and military hunted for physical UFO debris, other secret branches of the Soviet state launched massive, heavily funded research programs into psychotronics, telepathy, and remote viewing. Fearing that American intelligence agencies were unlocking psychic espionage techniques, Soviet laboratories raced to study human psi phenomena, energy fields, and altered states of consciousness, treating the human mind itself as an operational frontier. In Russia, high strangeness is shaped by a fascinating paradox: the collision of strict military-industrial pragmatism with deep philosophical esotericism. Supported by secret state archives, dramatic mass sightings like Petrozavodsk, nuclear silo encounters, and the sweeping vision of Russian Cosmism, Russia stands as a colossal, highly complex pillar of global ufology, where the government has long suspected that the secrets of the universe are too vital and too dangerous to leave uninvestigated. In contemporary Russia, state-controlled television networks and mainstream media rarely treat UFOs as a serious scientific pursuit or a matter of formal state disclosure. Instead, the topic is generally relegated to late-night entertainment, historical trivia, or sensationalized pop culture programming. While the state maintains strict oversight over national airspace and aerospace security, official institutions prefer to keep historical and contemporary military investigations tightly locked away, leaving public discourse to navigate a landscape of official silence, punctuated by occasional leaks. Despite the lack of institutional openness from the modern government, independent researchers, online digital archives, and regional anomaly hunters maintain a vibrant, highly active subculture dedicated to tracking the unknown. Regions like the Perm Krai, most notably the legendary Malayapka Anomaly Zone, frequently dubbed the Russian Triangle along the Silva River, have drawn ufologists, stalkers, and alternative researchers from across the globe. Since the late Soviet glasnost era, these remote areas have been famous for reported sightings of glowing orbs, anomalous magnetic fields, and poltergeist activity. Modern Russian independent researchers utilize digital forums, localized social media networks, and crowdsourced databases to archive historical Soviet-era sightings, translating classified military logs and keeping the legacy of pioneers like Felix Ziegel alive online. In Russia, UFOs and the paranormal occupy a space of state-vetted history and dark, heavily guarded mystery. Bound by decades of military secrecy, Cold War security paranoia, and a vast, isolating geography, Russia's encounter with high strangeness is defined less by public conventions or open civic festivals, and much more by classified files locked deep inside government vaults and whispered about across the endless taiga. To be continued. Watch and listen. Watch the cinematic video trailer. Listen to the full podcast now. Explore the archive Cosmic Awakening Volume 1, 1991, Peru, Journey into the Unknown. Sacred Valley of the Incas. Volume 2, Ascension 2012, The Golden Alchemy. Part 3, The First Contact, The Paranormal State. Join the journey. New episodes drop periodically. Each chapter delivers a tight, hyper-focused 10 to 30-minute hit of real-life experiences, perfect for your daily plunge into consciousness exploration. Subscribe to support your inner development. Thumbs up to help push our channel through the algorithm. Comment below. Share your thoughts on today's episode.